welcome back to the Bayside Fabrication YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. On today's deal here, we're going to build a intercooler. So we're going to take 2 cores and build an intercooler from scratch, really. So hope you enjoy it, and yeah, thanks for watching. All right, well, we got our bumper on and we are getting ready to order an intercooler. So this is the first size core that I can build. It's 8 by 3.5 by 24. So we're gonna see how this fits up in here. And there's a couple of options, but I don't really have a ton of room to work with. So we're just gonna see how this all shakes down in here. So this is kind of what I was thinking. We'll angle the intercooler, you know, something like this, and then have our ductwork come flat bottom here and then come out with a diffuser off the back side of this, but then we'll duct down and suck air, bring it up and then out, and we'll have to cut the rear bumper, modify the rear bumper so it exhausts the air, no problem. The other options I've seen are, you know, flat mounted intercoolers like this, but I don't see any airflow. It just goes across it, you know, this way, and it doesn't really serve as a intercooler. So we're just kind of coming up with ideas here of what we could do, potentially what we could do. The other thought is to do 2 small intercoolers. So like imagine half this size. So this was my first intercooler option. This was 24 by 8 by 3.5. And now I have another option here, and this is actually a BMW 335 spec aftermarket intercooler size. This is 5 by 6 by 20. Now what I'm thinking with this one is maybe I could run 2 of these, and that might be a good solution. Check this out. So here's my thought. 2 20-inch by 6 by 5 intercooler cores. They're only 75 bucks each, brand new for the cores. So they're actually one of the cheaper options. Guys, I think this might be a sick freaking solution here. Let's roll under. Man, I'm really missing my lift. So what we'll do is just weld the 2 intercooler tanks together, and then I'll just make a filler plate right here, and that'll be the perfect center. Now I can still go up. What we can do is just have to notch this last part of the frame rail right here, and we can go up another inch, which would really give it a nice tuck in here. But I think that's gonna be the answer. Now, because that's way too low. All right, guys, I got my intercooler template mocked up here, and let me show you how it looks. So I wound up, it's gonna be like a slight V, and I'll plate this so the insides will be welded together to each core, and then I wound up just cutting this tab off because it was really getting in my way of clearance. But this is going to be the face of the intercooler. So now I'll have a 40-inch long, 6-inch high, 5-inch deep intercooler. And it sits, this is the only part that's kind of protruding down. But like I said, I'm going to just notch up on this bumper a little bit to make sure the air can exit properly. But now what I can do is take my diffuser, and that's going to come, and like I said, it's just gonna hug this intercooler, and it's gonna be, it'll be sick, guys. It's all kind of coming together, but it's gonna be rad. So now I just have to make an end tank here that kind of comes out and, you know, just kind of goes along with the bumper line here, but that's gonna be, you know, once we get the cores in. But I'm gonna order these 2 cores up tonight. This is gonna be a great option here. Ooh, look what the UPS man just dropped off. Let's check out what we got going on here. Ooh, look at these. All right, check out that core. So these are nice fat little guys. And I'm fired up. They're gonna look nice. Well, it's intercooler time. So what I'm gonna do now is tack together just the inside. So this is gonna be the inside. We're gonna throw a few heavy tacks on here and then get this angle correct. And then we're going to fill this in with 1/8 inch plate. All right, we rolling under here. And we got our intercooler kind of just up on jack stands now. So we got nice and protected with our cardboard, obviously. But the plan now is just get it centered. This angle looks pretty good here. So what I'm going to do is take a measurement here. This is just a spacer, obviously, so to space it out. And then I'm just going to tack a little plate in here so this isn't moving around, because right now it's pretty wiggly, and eventually these tacks will crack on that side. So I just want to get it tacked on this side, and then we'll have a lot more leeway here in order to jack it up and things. But I think it's going to be pretty slick. That was kind of my goal, was to have it more or less, you know, flush, or you know, with the bumper here. This gap wound up being approximately 1.5 inches. So I just sheared off some 1.5 inch, 1/8 inch plate, and we just tacked it on the front side, tacked it on the back side, and now we actually have a, you know, rigid thing to deal with. So let's go put this up under here and see how this looks now that's not moving around. Here's the setup, guys. It's looking pretty rad. So it's flared out nice. I wound up pushing it forward as much, not as much as I can, but a little bit more. That way it keeps the weight more forward and not hanging right off the back here. Although this weighs, geez, I didn't weigh the intercooler yet, but significantly less than the exhaust would. So, but it's gonna be a nice setup here. You know, just if you're looking down on it, you won't even be able to see it. Kind of thinking twice about maybe even having to cut my bumper, because now that it's forward, I have like 4 inches here for air to come out. Although I don't want it to get stagnant in here, but I don't know if that's gonna make a difference. You know, maybe I'll just do some holes, or I don't know. We'll figure that out. But having that gap there actually makes a big difference. It kind of, like I said, kind of hides it more, puts the weight forward more, makes the charge pipes shorter, which is always beneficial, and it just looks better and it's in a better position. Yeah, so we got about 3 inches, 2 1/4, 3, you know, so about 3 inches all the way around. So I'm wondering if that's gonna be enough to exhaust the hot air going through the core. We'll just run it with the bumper at first, I guess, to see how it goes. And then we can pull the whole bumper off and just see if there's any air temperature difference on the intake air temperatures. So that will be really the test. And then we'll know if, you know, that makes that much of a difference. But I think we'll, I was mentioning about cutting the bumper right off the bat, but I think maybe if we can leave it, it would certainly look cleaner and be a little more stealth mode. All right, guys, just pop the bumper off here to get better access to it now that I have it in place. You can see on these sides there's heat shields for where the stock exhaust was located. So I pulled this side off, and what I'm going to do is remove the heat shielding from this bumper support frame here. There's no need to have it. It's just going to trap heat in this area. So I'm going to open that up. If you notice on the turbo cars, actually, in this area is where the intercoolers are. And there's vents here that exhaust the air from the intercooler. So now we have a wide open space here. It's funny, these cars aren't much once you take a couple panels off. So now we're just going to drill out these 3 rivets here and just reinstall it. All right, guys, so we whipped up a couple cardboard templates. And I actually, believe it or not, prefer the Busch Light boxes because they are this nice thin cardboard. And I know it sounds silly, but for templates, this thick cardboard is no good. So this nice thin cardboard is much better because you don't get the thickness of the cardboard to mess you up. And it's easier to cut and whatnot. So I prefer the Bush Light variety of cardboard, but you can get any kind of cardboard that is this thin. So you can see where we're at. We just made a few templates, and this intercooler, as you know, is going to be sitting at an angle. So this is actually going to be flush. So what I got to do now is just wrap this, box this off, then that's going to be our inlet, and then we're just going to mirror it to the other side. So we'll just replicate this side for the other side. All right, so I decided I want to do a nice little radius edge on here. This is a 60-degree angle that we have. And so what I did is I cut an oversized piece here, and I have it marked. And what we're going to do is just take it, and at the second mark here, just because I want to give myself a little extra room just in case, we're going to put it in the swag press. And I have this piece of Delrin that this is what I used on the intake manifold, and it actually worked really well. So I'm going to give that a shot and give this a nice radius. So that's the little radius we put on it. Like I said, just trying to avoid this sharp edge here. And we're there. I mean, it's not much here, but it just gives us, honestly, I just think it's just a nice cleaner setup. You will be able to see this from the side too, so it just gives it a nice, I don't know, just a nicer look too. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, but it definitely looks a little more trick than just doing a sharp edge here. Now that I have my profile, guys, what I do is I just take a scribe I have here, and I just scribe the mark right along, and then we'll cut like a 1/16 of an inch off of that to give us a nice weldable edge like that. So that's the plan, just so you guys know what I'm doing here. So we got to run this through the saw, but it's fitting up real nice. So here's my final side piece here, and without tacking it or anything, let's see. All right, it's hard to do it with one hand here, but this is how it fits. So this is what we're striving for, just this nice 45 on the edges. All right, important thing to note here is you want to always keep your inlets and outlets covered with tape or something where you're doing any kind of grinding. So, you know, like on these edges, I just took a Dremel and, you know, ground it out a little bit. And you always want to make sure it's covered, because anything that gets stuck in this core will find its way into your engine. I've heard of, I think it was Rob Dahm actually had a, blew a motor that way. So, not cool. Here's the final product, guys. All we have to do is knock a hole in this side. So I left this just very lightly tacked on, and what we'll do is pop this off, drill our hole so no debris gets inside here, pop it back on, then weld it. Now for the clamps, I'm actually not going to weld a clamp on this side. I'm going to weld this on the turbo, I believe, but we're going to use these heavy duty clamps. These are Amazon special, but they are direct replicas of the Vibrant HD clamps, and they're nice because they allow a little bit of wiggle room, as you can see there, and there's O-rings and stuff keeping them sealed. Now, I was skeptical at first, and I'm sure you guys are like, well, what's the deal? Why are you not just getting a Vibrant clamp or the, you know, expensive ones? Well, the expensive ones are like $140 each. These are, I believe they were 35 or 40 each. And I was watching reviews on them, and I saw a guy pressure test one of these up to 120 PSI. You know, they claim like 400 PSI, but the reality is if these can hold 120 PSI, I am more than happy. I don't think we're going to be pushing anywhere near, we're certainly not going to be pushing anywhere near that. And on average, I would say this is going to be low to high 20s PSI on this setup. We'll see how it goes, but that's what I believe. So I'm going to give these cheap ones a shot, see how they work. I mean, these are direct replicas of the Vibrant. They look pretty good. The machine work is fine. We'll just see how they seal. I mean, really the weakest link could be the O-ring at this point. So, I mean, if that's the case, just a couple O-rings. But, you know, this is one of those things where, you know, I'm not a huge fan of, you know, getting a bunch of Chinese stuff and all that. However, in cases like this, I mean, there's really not much that can go wrong. So parts like this, I have no problem buying just because it's, you know, it's just a mechanical piece and there's a couple pieces to it. You know, once you get into turbos and things like that, well, I'm not sure how that is, and I don't know. I'm not going to get into the debate about that whole thing. I see both sides of the spectrum. I run plenty of Chinese parts. I run plenty of good parts made in USA or Germany or wherever. But the reality is, you know, something like this is just a simple mechanical piece that I don't see there's going to be a problem with it failing. We'll find out, though. I may be eating my words. Well, I switched up a couple things here, and I just want to show you guys. I was up last night thinking about things, and I decided to just redo this just a little bit. Now, I used all the parts that I had, so it really wasn't a big deal. But what I decided to do is add a little kick into here. It's not so much on the inlet side of the intercooler, but the outlet. I want to make sure that air is channeled as smoothly as possible, given, you know, what we have here. So I decided just to add these two little kicks here instead of having a straight piece like I had yesterday. So this will allow, you can see we're just going to use this as a representation here. It will just allow a smoother inlet and outlet of air coming in. That's really all. So nothing super crazy. We got our mounts tacked up lightly, and what I did was, here's a steel mount, and this is going right on the tubular frame, which I'm going to show you in 2 seconds, a tubular engine mount, and then obviously just a piece of angle here on our intercooler. So we're going to get it finally in place and tack on the steel part now that the aluminum's tacked on, and let me show you where this is going to ultimately sit. Intercooler is now installed. So I just have my tabs on the intercooler side tacked in place. Let's get a light going here. So these are just tacked. These are just tacked. This is welded on. I just need to hit the top side, so I have to drop the motor back down. But in the meantime, I'm going to add 2 more mounts. One probably right about here, and one right about here. Just a couple vertical mounts, because now it's just, you know, hinging on these 2. So it's wiggly. It is, it's not a heavy intercooler, but it's relatively heavy. These cores aren't light. I think they're like, I don't know, maybe 8 pounds each. So they're not the lightest thing in the world, but that's our intercooler setup. So we got a nice wide intercooler here. And before I go and, you know, finish weld everything, just gonna make sure the bumper fits back on it and everything looks good. The bumper will fit because it goes right to here, but I just want to see how it looks. This is probably going to hang a little low. See what the side profile looks like, but I think it's going to be just fine. It kind of is what it is at this point. All right, just threw the bumper cover on to see how it looks. And it looks pretty good to me. So there we have our whole intercooler here. I'm just waiting for our tubes to come in. They should be here any day now. Or they should be here today, actually. But yeah, that's our intercooler setup. Now it's time to just weld it up. Well, here's the almost finished product. It's hard to see, but I scribed. This is a scribe for my other mounts. So I just gotta weld those on, weld it all up. finished up welding the tabs on the sides I couldn't access on the motor mount here. We're gonna toss it back in, and then she's done. Well, here it is. It's definitely noticeable, that's for sure. You know, it kind of I kept it as low profile as I could to the car, but it's not bad. Actually has kind of a, from the side, it's pretty subtle from the side. You know, if it was painted black or something on the end tanks, that would be, you know, a little more stealth mode. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I definitely think we're going to have to do something with the rear bumper to get it to flow, and, you know, diffuser or something, and, you know, get it just, you know, just tie it in a little bit more. It looks kind of funny with the exhaust cutouts and stuff, I think. But I'm not gonna sweat it right now. We're gonna focus on just getting the car mechanically squared away and running, and then we will play around with that. But I hope you enjoyed the video of the intercooler build. The next one, we're going to be messing with the charge piping and also the throttle body placement and fabrication there, and get back to kind of the intake manifold a little bit. We have to add ports, blow-off valves, you know, all sorts of stuff. So we'll be pretty much a continuation of the cold side of the turbo system on the next one. So thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks a lot.